Cruncher. Okay, all of you guys heard of the cruncher? Anyone fish it?
Yeah.
All right, you all fish it?
Yeah.
Do you tie it?
No.
No. Yes.
Cool. What are you doing here? No, all good. No, it's a great fly. Look, the ones you buy in the shop are good. Most of them are tied off the, look, it's another English lock style fly. From what I understand, its name, cruncher, comes from all the little insects in the lakes. They're all crunchers, so they're ones that you would stand on and crunch, you know, the little invertebrates, they're little bugs, they're little midge, they represent a lot of things, so that's sort of where the name comes from. But look, it works well here in all forms of fishing. You know, you don't need to lock style fish this. I fish it in rivers, I fish it in lakes, you know. It used to be a fly that I would put on as, gee, nothing else is really working, I'll throw on a cruncher. Now it's a fly I put on first, you know. It works really well for me anyway. It's a fly I have a lot of confidence with, and I hope you can learn something from it. So the fly I've got here at the moment, up in the vise, that's sort of your standard pheasant tail cruncher. As you can see the pheasant tail through the body. We've got the hen's hackle, oh, it's not necessarily hen, it could be rooster, as our tailing material. So I try and keep it basically all brown, you know. I don't like using pheasant tail as a tailing material. It breaks. This gives it a bit more movement as well. But so basically that's it. We're going to have a little bit of copper ribbing going through it. And the hackle is going to be some of those small little feathers you would have plucked out of this stuff. So all right, we might as well start. So get a hook and a vise. I might go into a bit of detail at the end how I fish these. So, but we'll focus on the tying for now. Okay, how's that looking? Now, I guess the trick is with this, I don't like this fly too bulky. Now, so basically, when we're going to tie in our tail material, I like to tie it in and the copper wire pretty much at the same time. So I'm going to. So basically, what I'm going to do, I'll just sort of show you what I mean. But when we put start off tying, now we'll bring it in just behind the hook, the eye of the hook, of course, and we'll lay down a bed. So let's call this a bed of thread. Now I don't want to do that every time we put something on, because if we do, we're going to get a very fat fly. I just don't think that's the purpose of this fly. So we're going to lay one down first. Now I'm going to try and find it. Yep. So get that down to the sort of, you know, where you're comfortable there. Now tailing materials are little brown stuff we had before. Grab. Now what are we going to grab? You sort of look. I bring it out on an angle so it's sort of, you can see the length a bit better. Yeah. Yep. Now these are pretty long. These are just generic sort of cheap cock hackles. Now I want a little clump about that size, if you can see it. Now when we tie it on, I would say 1/2 to 3/4 the length of the shank of the hook would be plenty. Now when I tie this in, I'm just going to bring it in with a couple of little turns. The first one's just hardly going to do anything. Now that's about it for now, because I can adjust it. Now that's way too long, so I'm going to pull it forward, have a little look and go, yep, okay, that's looking okay. Now maybe just one more tie there. Now see, I haven't put another bed of thread on this fly. I don't want to do anything yet. I want to put in my copper wire. So.
For your tail. Yeah, no, you really don't.
So are we good to? I might go too quick.
No, you shoot through this one, Ezra. We'll go back.
So basically, as we're winding down this copper wire, this is when I start to sort of get the tail. I hold the copper wire and the tail all in one go, and you want to tie it down to where the barb would be if you have a barb. If you don't, just where you'd imagine one would be. So by that stage, I've got, you know, my tail's still there, the wire's sitting where it needs to be, and we've only laid down one bed of thread. Does that make sense to people when I talk like that?
Right.
Look, it's a little ugly in that sense, but I just don't want it to be too bulky. That's the main thing. Now here I might tidy it up a little bit. Let's get rid of any excess sort of stuff. Now we want a bit of pheasant tail. So the brown pheasant tail, chocolate brown, whatever you want to call it.
What do you mean? Let's go that way.
We're going to grab a little bit. I would say about as thick as a matchstick, maybe like 6-7 pieces. That's probably a bit too much that I've chopped off then, but you can just take a few off. It's a little fiddly, this fly, but look, you know, that's the way it is. But probably that amount would be about right. Can you see what I've got there? Now we want to tie this in on the tips. You can cut it, but I don't. You can run out of this quite quickly. It's not that long, so by the time you do a few wraps. So you want to get it in. Now tips pointing up towards the eye. I'm not too stressed about how much I've got above that. Same thing as what we did before with the tailing material. I'm only going to do a couple of little wraps now. Towards the end of the base of the hook. Now I'm going to pull in that pheasant tail. And that's okay because we're going to bring the thread back up, so I'm not too worried about bringing the fibres back any further, if that's making any sense. So through there, we're going to lay this down. Now we want this to be reasonably tidy. The pheasant tail you're going to pin down with the thread. If there's little bits hanging off, I wouldn't worry about it too much, as long as it doesn't look too messy, because that's going to be the body of your fly. And you want it to sort of look okay. Now, you can use hackle pliers if you really want to, but at this stage I don't think we really need it. But we're going to wrap the pheasant tail. Now I wrap this towards me, so we're starting at the bottom. We want to do sort of touching turns all the way up.
What do you mean?
I did it, Eddie. That's what I heard.
Yeah, she's okay. So now lock that down. You sort of give yourself a bit of room at the front there, because it's one of those flies you can overcrowd the eye of the hook quite easily. Yeah. Once that's down, I'm probably going to give it a little bit of a snip, tidy that up a little bit. And then we just wrap the copper wire in the opposite direction from what you did the pheasant tail. So you're going to go. Now I would probably expect to go, we've got 1 turn, we've got 2, 3, look, four's enough. I do 1 more there just to lock it down, but look, we're going to probably only expose about 3 of them by the time we've got everything else on. So bring the thread back a little bit, because this is where we're going to put a little bit of dubbing on. Now you can break that wire off. I use cheap scissors, old scissors, to cut my wire, because that's just the way I do it. But you all can do it any way you like. Okay, so the thorax. The reason I've sort of given you this sort of copper brown, I like a difference, something to distinguish between the dark brown pheasant tail that we've got going on. So I want another brown in there, so I like this UV copper stuff. I'm really loving a bit of UV in small amounts. I think it's really cool. It just attracts a bit of attention. It looks like a little bit of air trapped inside the shuck of the nymph. It just gives you something there. Now look, I use dubbing wax. If you don't use it, you might struggle a little bit with this material because it is a bit coarse, but each to their own. So let's just dub a small little thorax. Probably less is more at this stage. You can always add on. So look, yeah. The good thing I like about this sort of stuff is that it will as you fish it, it'll come apart. It'll coat the fly as the hackle does, and it just adds to the sort of, you know, the appearance of it. So we're basically just doing a tight little sort of thorax there. See, I've still given myself plenty of room at the front. Now that's pretty much bang on. I'm happy with that. It's now here we go. This is where we got to pull out those little tying in hackle. Now you all probably do it your own way. I don't tie it in by the tips. I don't like doing that on small flies. This is not a wet. It's not a wet hackle fly. You know? So if you're more comfortable tying it that way, by all means do it. I'm not. I do it on bigger flies like size 12s, 10s, that sort of thing. So I'll show you how I do it. So I'm looking for, yeah, look. So I've pulled out a feather about that big. Now, I like the length in it. I like the longer feathers. I don't really like the short, sort of fat, round ones. You sort of know that sort of size is going to give yourself a decent hackle. You don't really want the hackle to sit back any longer than the length of the shank of the hook, I would say. It's not, like I said, it's not a wet fly. It's sort of similar in nature, but it's not. So we just want enough at that front to sort of give it some movement and to sort of cloak the fly. So what I do here, look, this is fiddly stuff. It's small, so you might not be able to see it so well. But I'm going to take away some of this thicker stuff because we're only going to do 3 turns at the max. So, you know, that's probably pretty good. Now, I tie it in at the base, so I tie it in. We're hoping that's in. Yeah, that looks about right. So, look, that's in there now. A few turns just to lock it in. If you want to, you can tidy that up at this stage, you know, without trying to cut your thread, which is always, you know, an interesting thing. Now, this is where you want to use hackle plies. Everyone got hackle plies? Because, I don't know, unless you've got little tiny little fingers, this is... yeah. Shit. See, mine actually just came out then, so I didn't actually tie it down well enough. So we might be in a little bit of trouble with that. But anyway, we'll try and get it back in. It actually broke, which is I haven't had that happen before. Might have been the dyeing I did to it today. Who knows? Let's hope that's in. That looks about right. Here we go. Let's bed that in. Okay. Take 2. Now, on this hackle, I'm only going to give it 2 or 3 turns, maybe 3, and lock it in. Look, that's enough. Like it's, oh, fingers are a bit shaky. That's all right. Now from here, I get that last bit and I tie in behind it, and I've locked it in. Now that's locked in. Now I'm going to do another one, and you know, to be sure, and that should just break off. Look, if you get a little bit hanging off, it doesn't really matter. I'll stop it there for now. Yeah. Okay, back again. Now look, we're just going to finish this fly off. So look, when we're tying off this fly, I'll pull back that hackle. Now I'll go back onto that hackle maybe a mil just to give it a little bit so it's facing back that way. Now, did he tie it off? I don't use head cement on this fly. If I wax this up enough, it'll clinch enough for me. Look, if this gets smashed by a fish or 3 or 4 fish, it'll fall apart before your bit of thread at the front will. So, you know, if you want to put head cement on it, sure, but it's not what I do. So I'm just going to show you how I do it. Yeah. Just 3 down on a well waxed piece of thread is enough. I'm going to, you know, give that a good tug, and that's it. That's the cruncher.